an aspect that not many people really talk about uh, regarding the Mexicans, and we are, and it's not going to be bashing them. If anything, we're gonna get a little a little bit into the backstory and do some readings as usual. See how many what's in it for what's next for the good old central and north. Yeah, the let's call them the Mexicans. Anyways, let's actually. I wanted to also start off like this. Ooh, hold up. Mind you, I'm on this old piece of shit. This old piece of shit laptop, and don't fucking ask me why I don't have a new one. I don't have the dough. Now, uh you could become a subscriber and help me change so and help change that if that would be so. But let's check this snazziness out here. This is a I know this is from a movie from when I was a kid. Pirates of the Caribbean or Caribbean. Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean. And this is very, I would say, kind of fun and interesting. Let's check this puppy out here. All right, give me a minute.
Who's but a single piece from that stone chest shall be punished for eternity.
I hardly believe in ghost stories anymore, Captain Barbosa.
Aye. That's exactly what I thought when we were first told the tale. Buried on an island of the dead, what cannot be found, except for those who know where it is. Find it, we did. There be the chest. Inside be the gold. We took them all. We spent them and traded them and frittered them away. Drink and food and pleasurable company. The more we gave them away, the more we came to realize the drink would not satisfy. Food turned to ash in our mouths, and all the pleasurable company in the world could not slake our lust. We accursed men, Miss Turner. Compelled by greed we were, but now we are consumed by it. There is one way we can end our curse. All the scattered pieces of the Aztec gold must be restored, and the blood repaid. Thanks to ye, we have the final piece.
And the Blood to be repaid?
That's why there's no sense to be killing you. Yet.
Yeah. Ain't that some craziness? Now, the Aztecs. The Aztecs of like, yeah, gods. They believed in so many of these amazing things. I do want to actually cover. uh, I was contemplating putting up another video for the Aztecs. However, that would be kind of a that'd be over an hour, and I don't want to do that. I want to interact with y'all. Not that anyone's watching, but interact with you in the comments section, and basically just say, yeah, let's check these out. Let's check it out again here. Radio. Huh. All you need to know about the Aztecs, and we'll even get into to some questions, because I have got some questions after dealing with some of this. And again, like, happy Cinco de Mayo. No, I am not doing this white guilt bullshit. All right, it's not like a, but it's a. I think it's an awesome, interesting topic that I think a lot of people do not really touch on. They really don't. I mean, like, we might touch on it on a little bit in school, but we don't really delve deep into the Aztecs, even though ironically, uh, the university or San Diego State University is called the Aztecs. So let's actually get into some interesting stuff here, and when, because we have to understand, it's like, well, aren't you talking about like the truther community, and aren't you part of the truther? It's like, yes, but at the same time, you need to know some basic freaking. I'm not. All right, whatever. You need to know some basic fucking history. All right. It's just but no, these people who are really trying to it's absolutely, what I find absolutely fucking insane is that even in this community, the new age, the truther, or whatever, we never really dig into the Aztec culture, do we? Yet we want to talk about the Mayan calendar, the Aztec calendar, and if, or I don't, I guess it's not the Aztec calendar, but like the Aztecs and the Mayans and the calendars and all that stuff. Maybe we might get into maybe we might do an episode on the Mayans, but today Aztecs are a bit more but hmm. If you're in the chat, let me know whether or not you want me to even touch the Mayans on this. To even do like some readings on celebratory Mayan culture. But let's just see what the Aztecs were about here.
This video is
Whoa.
brought to you by Captivating History. In this video, we will explore one of the largest empires of the Americas and the ancient world, the Aztecs. Who were they? Where did they come from? How did they live? What regions did they conquer? And how did their civilization perish? Who were the Aztecs? Where did they come from? The Aztecs were considered a Mesoamerica civilization. Mesoamerica is the area of current-day Central America, extending from northern central Mexico through the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, or Mexico Tenochtitlan, was founded in 1325 CE in the Valley of Mexico, within the region that is Mexico City today. Historians believe the civilization was likely related to the Toltecs, a civilization that grew to prominence in northern Mexico in the 11th and 12th centuries. It is unclear why the Aztecs chose to move to the Valley of Mexico. However, Aztec mythology describes their migration south, as well as the founding of the city of Tenochtitlan, as being brought about by divine intervention.
It would not shock me, because if you actually look at the Aztec architecture, it's very akin to Egyptian. Very, very akin to Egyptian. It's so crazy how it's an entirely different continent, an entirely different region, yet the cultures are so freaking similar, if not identical, to like Egyptians and even some arrows of Asia, specifically the Indian stuff. Yeah, the not the Indian stuff, but like the Indian region. So like South Asia.
As legend has it, the Aztec god Huitzilopochtli came to the priest Quetzalcoatl and commanded him to build their new home where they would find an eagle perched on top of a Tenochtli cactus. Shortly following this vision, Quetzalcoatl minions are said to have encountered the omen, prompting Quetzalcoatl and his people to settle in that territory. It's important to note that the Aztec people didn't identify as Aztecs. This is the
Oh,
name historians use to describe the empire formed by the Nahuatl-speaking people who called them.
maybe Armored Skeptic is correct, and we haven't covered any of his videos, but Armored Skeptic is a YouTuber that I watch from time to time. But he does have a series called "History Was a Lie" or "History Is a Lie," which it would not shock me. I wouldn't say all of history is is a is a lie. However, let's just say, yeah, history is kind of propagated and they leave a lot of stuff out because it's too scary. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate for us to learn, for our kids to learn the cores of national and international interaction. Ugh.
themselves the Mexico. The word Aztec was derived from the term Azteca, which means people from Aztlan, believed to be a place in northern Mexico where the semi-nomadic Mexica had originated. Although this was not the name the Aztecs used to describe themselves, it became the historically accepted designation. Government, city-states, and expansion. Aztec civilization can be divided into two time periods, the early Aztec era and the late Aztec era. Many of the city-states that would become a part of the Aztec Empire were founded at the beginning of the 12th century. The beginning of the late Aztec era is usually associated with the founding of Mexico Tenochtitlan in 1325. However, when the Mexica arrived, there was little available land left unsettled. Different tribes and ethnic groups occupied the territory, but over time and through conquest and alliances, many of these tribes would assimilate into the Aztec culture.
Wow, this actually looks a
The
lot
political
more.
system
Oh, they're going to talk to the political system, but if you actually look at right here, kind of looks, yeah, kind of looks like a modern day Mexicans, but also I would say also maybe Pacific Islander, maybe, yeah, huh.
assimilate into the Aztec culture. The political system of the
And this is the thing about being a truther. You can't in my opinion, like if this is, I will do a side rant here about the truther community. You need to be open to like all possibilities and be willing to learn to get to the truth. You can have some knowledge, if not a lot of knowledge of the truth, but you need all aspects to get to the truth. I know we're seeing it from like one aspect. We don't know the sources, but yeah, This is let's continue. This is getting really interesting.
The Aztecs was despotism. Kings and quasi-kings ruled over city-states and interacted with one another.
That's very, very, very akin to how things were in Greece, ancient Greece. This is like thousands of years after that, I would imagine. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know what. Yeah, I'll admit I don't know what SCE stands for. However, but or whenever they're talking about. Uh, but if I recall correctly, it's not. It's way after the BC times. So so there's a lot of Mediterranean. It's so actually look at that. It's actually almost Egyptian-esque. It's very Mediterranean. And by Mediterranean, I don't mean exclusively white, okay? Jesus Christ, you stupid babies.
Sometimes city-states would be cooperative with each other, typically via trade and military alliances, but often they fought one another to establish dominance or settle other grievances. Relationships between city-states were ever-changing and unpredictable. The Aztec Empire is best understood as a political alliance between some 50 or more city-states that occupied the Valley of Mexico.
That does actually very much sound like either the Egyptian or the Greek formula, to be honest, like a democracy. And again, I'm not getting into politics or trying to make this political, but I mean, like, or nor am I taking any sides on anything like that. But I'm just saying, but that's where democracy that is very democratic on their side. You got, at least for their politics, very ancient Greek-esque.
The primary political foundation that bound them was a system of taxes and tributes designed to raise the status of the sovereigns and the nobility, ultimately oppressing and pacifying the commoners. The golden age of the Aztec Empire began in 1428 with the formation of
1428. So this is like almost 2,000 years after. 2,000 years after the ancient civilizations. Wow. And it looks just like those ancient civilizations.
the Triple Alliance between Mexico Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, and Tlacopan. This represents the most robust form of political cooperation between the city-states in the Valley of Mexico. The economic and military might of these combined city-states propelled the Aztecs to eventually gain control over virtually all settlements in the Valley of Mexico and the regions beyond. This alliance, however, was born of necessity. In 1426, hostilities between the Mexica, or Aztecs, and the Tepanecs, a city-state with
The Mexica, the Aztecs. So actually, I just learned something today. So Mexico or the Mexicans, yeah, Aztec people. Jeez, who would have known?
considerable influence in the Valley of Mexico intensified. The Tepanecs attacked.
And yes, again, oh, who would have known? It's like I know, seriously, I did not know that. And again, I'm not. I'll admit and show that I don't know certain things. But that's what, again, being a truther or being part of the truther community is about getting to the truth, and you're being exposed to things that you were not exposed to before. Not saying that you know it all, and I will admit I don't know it all. I know what I know, and is it all? Not at all.
Attempted a blockade of Tenochtitlan to extract higher taxes and tributes, and simultaneously were engaged in hostilities with the Acolhua in Texcoco. When the Tepanecs forced Netzelhuacoyotl, the sovereign of Texcoco, to flee the city, The Mexican leader, Moctezuma, seized the opportunity to ally the Texcoco to defeat their common enemy. Moctezuma rallied the support of the city-state of Tlacopan, whose citizens had grown intolerant of the Tepanec's heavy-handed governance. War broke out in 1428, and the combined forces of Texcoco, Tlacopan, Tenochtitlan, and a fourth city-state, CINCO, proved to be the undoing of the Tepanecs. With the Tepanecs defeated, the Mexica were positioned to fill that power void and become the dominant influence in the Valley of Mexico. Tenochtitlan, being the largest and wealthiest of the three city-states, with the biggest and most formidable military, became the obvious choice as the capital of the newly formed imperial alliance. The leader of Tenochtitlan became the de facto emperor of the new empire of the Triple Alliance.
Okay, so okay, I don't want to get into this like crazy rant here, like, or rant too much, but can we actually get finally pull away, not just pull away, but just like say how exclusively this white this is white nationalism, imperialism, and all the imperialists, all that kind of stuff is just exclusively. No, the Aztecs had imperialism long before than this country was established. Are we not going to touch on this, on how modern day Mexico, or back then the Aztecs, they freaking had kings, they had imperialism, they were at wars with others. It was all divide and conquer, all this other stuff. Like we spoke about Ramses not that long ago. I mean, this is not far off from that. It's very, but so I don't want to hear no stupid, nonsensical imperialism from the crazies, from the snowflakes that fucking bitch about why imperialism. It's not just from the British Empire or whatever. There were empires everywhere. Okay? Even in the Americas.
After joining forces, the newly formed Aztec Empire quickly set its sights on gaining control over the entire Valley of Mexico. Campaigns throughout the 1430s brought the cities of Chalco, Xochimilco, Cuitlahuac, and
the 1430s. What brings in mind comes to mind in the 1430s or even the 1420s? Yeah, some Spaniard. We know who we're talking about.
Coyoacan, under the influence of the Triple Alliance. Following these conquests, the Aztecs looked further south, advancing into the modern-day state of Morelos. There they would conquer Cuauhnahuac, the modern-day city of Cuernavaca, and Huaxtepec. In 1440, the first emperor of the Aztec Empire died, and Moctezuma I was chosen as his successor. Moctezuma's reign was an important period in Aztec history. He began construction on some of the most important Aztec temples, including the Great Temple of Tenochtitlan. In 1458, Moctezuma I began military campaigns that would further dramatically expand the sphere of Aztec influence in the region. The Aztecs extended their control well beyond the Valley of Mexico, establishing dominance throughout most of the modern-day states of Morelos and Oaxaca. Throughout the 100 years of the Triple Alliance, the Aztecs converted their civilization from a loose collection of semi-aligned but often warring city-states into one of the largest empires in the New World, and the largest empire to have existed in Mesoamerica. Their systems of expansion and consolidation were steady and directed. Emperors who expanded their territory were followed by leaders who consolidated and organized their newly acquired lands and cities, And by the end of this period, the Aztecs controlled a vast expanse of territory populated by
Yeah, the Maya, the Mayans. Not that far away. So yeah, that's crazy.
some 3 to 4 million people. Social classes and hierarchy.
Mhm.
Social classes and hierarchy dramatically influenced the life of the Aztec citizen. Rights, duties, and privileges were all determined because of one's social standing. However, when looking closely at the lives of the most distinct classes, upward mobility was possible. Even a slave was not predestined to that social station for their entire life and could
Ah. You mean to tell me that there was a formula that didn't keep the lower class or the slaves down there permanently? Mm. A. And then what? So, oh God. I had a thought in mind, but I didn't know how to deliver it. Deliver it. Ah, Jesus. But this
could
is
achieve emancipation and upward social mobility. The sovereign, the dignitaries, and the nobles. The ruling classes of Aztec society can be crudely stratified into 3 groups. At the top was the sovereign, given the title Tlatoani. Each city-state had its own Tlatoani. Below the sovereign were the dignitaries, usually close relatives or friends of the sovereign. Underneath the dignitaries were the nobility. These 3 groups were responsible for the administrative, bureaucratic, and gubernatorial duties of the empire.
hmm. So kind of like the I want to go back to that a little bit because I wanted to make sure.
Close relatives or friends of the sovereign. Underneath the dignitaries were the nobility. These 3 groups were responsible for the administrative, bureaucratic, and gubernatorial duties of the empire.
Okay.
Commoners. The life of a commoner in Aztec civilization was
Citizen, just like the average citizen.
dedicated nearly entirely to work. From the moment of birth, gender roles were ascribed to children. Males were expected to grow up to be warriors and work in the same occupation as their fathers. Females were expected to serve more domestic roles, such
YouTube. We understand that this is a new paradigm and we're entering a new paradigm, and this is not the 1960s or whatever, 1940s, and that also there are 50,000 genders. We know that, right? Everybody, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. God, fucking people don't know their place. No, I'm not implying anything. If do what makes you happy, everybody, just as long as you're not harming anybody and it's not coming out of the expense of the innocent. If you know what the heck I'm talking about. But ooh, this isn't really appropriate, YouTube. Is that where you're gonna suppress my channel, even though I'm only 6 subscribers? And get that up, everybody. You know damn and good and well that's the freaking case because uh, that's a different side rant.
such as cooking, cleaning, weaving, and bearing children. Because an Aztec commoner was expected to work, they were introduced to this way of life at an early age.
Basically, and this is what they don't really talk about, how if you this is what this is what they don't really talk about other civilizations, to be honest. how if you were not born if you didn't share a certain bloodline or you were not part of a certain network and you were a commoner, like, I mean, this is some Roman Empire stuff. It's so freaking crazy how we want to talk about these other white foreign countries such as Greece and Italy, yet we're not going to touch upon the hierarchies and all this other stuff that happened in Mexico, let alone ancient Egypt. Well, we touched upon ancient Egypt, but ain't ancient Mexico. No, Mexico, recent Mexico, just a few hundred years ago, not even 1,000 years ago. This is how things were. It was like wait, it was. I really wonder if there are aliens, like if there are certain time travelers, and I don't mean time travelers in the uh the sense of in that sense, but I've got to say, if anybody has been paying attention, in many civilizations, the ones that were socially progressive were very culturally, not, I wouldn't say culturally, but how should I say it? I wouldn't say imperial, industrially, and not just industrial, but in terms of its innovation, a lot of innovation, it's crazy. The the more progress the le it seems like the less progressive people, the more that they were discovering they were more in touch with their origins. This isn't for all civilizations, but they kind of had a formula going to make sure that things kept progressing. And I honestly think that technology, the stuff that we have right now, is just it's just a renewal plastic version of what was. I honestly think that this technology that we have here is thousands of years old. Call me insane. Call me insane. Oh, well, you're a conspiracy theorist here, Phoenix. You're a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, that's why it's called a theory, not a hypothesis, a theory, which is a proven formula that works. You can suck it. All right, I'll that wasn't really nice. But yeah, let's continue.
According to the Codex Mendoza, one of the most significant and primary sources of recorded information of the Aztec Empire, by the age of 5, boys were already carrying firewood and other goods to nearby marketplaces, and
Oh my
girls were
God.
already being taught how to hold a spindle and spin. Landless peasants. How one became landless is hard to discern, especially since it was part of Aztec custom to grant each person a tract of land to work so they could pay their taxes and tributes required by the local lord. However, with warfare,
That is actually how things were even a few decades ago. I mean, you're mean to tell me you want to go back to those years where it's like, yeah, cuz and it's actually, you want to know something? I'm going to do a little side rant. Someone on the phone actually asked me that once, and I said, "Yeah, I do actually, because I can at least afford a house, 2, 3 kids, a wife, a dog, and a car under one wage, and you don't need to do much. If you wanted to work, uh, you have at it. I'm not gonna force you, but you were not obligated to do that because you were paying your taxes, you were uh uh you were giving you were giving your hard labor, and you were granted land or certain properties or certain perks as gratuity to show that you were uh not just paying your taxes but contributing to the progression of of the country. Isn't it hilarious how now that was legit progress. It was technologically progressive and kinda culturally, um, conservative, but hey, things were moving forward, but then when that kinda stuff hit, seems like everything, regressed. Now everybody's permanently impoverished, but, yeah, I'm just some rando on the internet. What the hell do I know?
For being a near constant occurrence, and people being displaced as their towns and cities were conquered, this landless class did indeed grow as the empire advanced. Slaves. The lowest class in Aztec society was the slaves. While the life of the slave was by no means comfortable and luxurious, it was far better than the forms of slavery that would come to exist in the Americas with the formation of European colonies. Accounts from the Spanish explorers express surprise at the rather benevolent treatment of slaves. As mentioned previously, the Aztecs had social constructs in place that granted slaves the capability of raising their social station and achieve emancipation.
Mm.
Arrival of the Spanish and the decline of the empire. With the landing of Christopher Columbus in the West Indies in 1492, the Spaniards were officially the first Europeans in the New World and were eager to expand their influence into the Americas. They had heard of a great empire in central Mexico with stories of great riches, and the Spanish crown commissioned a Spanish conquistador, Hernán Cortés, with the mission of the expedition. Shortly before he set sail for Mexico, the Spanish crown rescinded its support for the mission, but Cortés set sail regardless.
Spaniards.
In 1519, Cortés arrived with about 500 soldiers on the coast of Mexico, near the modern-day city of Veracruz. They were greeted by messengers from the Aztec emperor, Moctezuma, who had heard of these strange men exploring the coast. Moctezuma was cautious of these new strangers and thought they might be gods. Upon Cortés's arrival, the Aztecs greeted him with offerings of gifts and gold as a way of forging peaceful relations. When given the gold, the Spaniards reportedly went crazy, and the encounter confirmed the riches of the empire and served to strengthen only the resolve of Cortés to conquer these people. Cortés began his march inland, making allies along the way. Cortés first allied with the Totonacs, then the Tlaxcala, a powerful city-state that resisted the control of the Triple Alliance. And after an initial conflict, Cortés convinced the Tlaxcalans to join him on his journey inland towards Tenochtitlan. When Cortés finally forged his way into central Mexico, he had several thousand troops under his command. When Cortés arrived in Tenochtitlan, Moctezuma welcomed him by putting him up in what was the equivalent of a royal palace. Cortés responded by taking Moctezuma prisoner and ruled Tenochtitlan under the guise he was acting on the behest of the Aztec emperor. In 1520, Cortés received word from his scouts that a Spanish expedition had been sent to Mexico to arrest him for setting sail against the wishes of the crown. He mobilized half of his forces and left Tenochtitlan to ward off the threat. Upon returning to the Aztec capital, Cortés found that tensions had risen in the city that placed him and his men in great danger. They planned to flee the city and retreated to the mountains in Tlaxcala. In these months, Cortés regrouped considerably. He marched again in Tenochtitlan with some 700 Spanish soldiers and approximately 70,000 native troops. They laid siege to the city for months, cutting off all sources of fresh water and stopping all shipments.
Wow, this looks so Middle Eastern, or at least very Mediterranean. Like I said, this is exactly what the Mediterranean looks like in the BC times. Very, very similar.
Of food. This assault, combined with diseases such as smallpox, wreaked havoc on the city, decimating its population and weakening the city's military resolve. Eventually, on August 13, 1521, Cuauhtémoc, who had replaced Moctezuma as emperor, was captured, and the Spaniards claimed victory over Tenochtitlan, thus ushering in the demise of this great civilization. To the uninitiated, it may appear that Cortés defeated the great Aztec Empire with little more than a few hundred Spanish soldiers. However, his forces were much larger. Long-standing rivalries, combined with resentment toward taxes and tributes imposed by the Aztecs, made it easy for Cortés to gain allies in the fight to take down Tenochtitlan. That and illnesses such as smallpox, measles, the mumps, influenza, and many other diseases, which were alien to Mesoamerica, ultimately overwhelmed the unimmunized Aztec Empire. Europeans had been exposed to these diseases for centuries and had developed immunities, while the Aztecs had not. Hundreds of thousands of them would die from these afflictions in a short window of time. This silent weapon of mass destruction proved one of the primary reasons the Spaniards seized control of such a powerful empire in such a short while. To discover more about the Aztec Empire,
Wow, that was nice. Don't you think? Hopefully I don't get copyright for that. Ooh. Yeah, the sun's directly on me. But yes. So, everybody, that's very much what's going on right now. It's not exactly a very current event sort of thing. However, let's make it a actually it's a celebratory day. I don't want to do that. I was going to do something like what the relations between uh the United States and its the Mexican and the US, those sorts of relations, how that is going to get resolved. Um yeah, we could touch a little bit upon that. I'll just touch upon it and maybe not get into detail. Um because I ultimately do want to see I want to see both sides prosper, of course. But the thing is that it should not we should not be I don't know. It I don't I don't want to share my politics. I guess I kind of have a little bit, but that's a touchy thing here. Let's just say I am not against it, in its entirety, but it needs to be legal. It needs to be legal. Okay, it's not out of entitlement. It's not like, well, I mean, like you just have it, and plus I have. It's like I understand, but you broke the rules. Okay. Uh, yeah, because I don't want to. Yeah, that's a little. I'll just do one one card draw here. Actually, yeah, I'll just do. Hmm. 9 of Wands. Okay, so. Huh. Oh, it is. The border is. I said border, but I meant to say barrier. A barrier is being built. You can see through the lines here. It's almost like a fence or a gate. So with the how however, even though that so he- and what is this woman doing? She's walking with her eyes closed, walking across with her eyes closed here. And so there so there and why is she and she can do that because it's the area is guarded. So there is he's trying to make it just like how it should be for how it's like for every other country. Just make sure that you do it the right way, okay? But well, we all know that these dingleberries really love to freaking they love to fucking take advantage of the system and all that and also there's a lot of money going there from the that government um that's being and they're importing a lot of disgusting non-pharmaceuticals, let's just call them. Brought to you in part by the US government, China, the CCP, and the Middle East. This was fairly short. I didn't know what really I just wanted to do a nice fun Cinco de Mayo. No, I was not. I'm just doing that nasally. Oh, whatever. Get offended if you want. I just don't. Yeah. Anywho, I'll keep at it. I'll keep at it. I'll see you Friday, where things are gonna be a lot more interesting then, to be honest. Well, actually, no, not Friday. Wednesday. I'll see you Wednesday. And just yes. It'll be fun. You go it's I've got some stuff that's a little unprecedented. But it's gonna be fun nonetheless. Anywho, you know what's up. I I'll see you everyone next time. Again, it'll decent chances are it's gonna be a bit longer, but I thought this was a pretty good. Leave a thumbs up, help us get closer to the truth and create more solace throughout the planet, more and throughout the cosmos. Alrighty. See you later.